Where's that hecking on button? Oh, I found it. Let's play. Good evening, everybody. Luke here with the meditation contemplation featuring FangleSpangle for just a slight little interview type thing where we go over what the meditations are, what the meditations mean to us, and the top 5 meditations for January.
Hello there.
Yes.
I'm Fangle.
Can you tell we haven't really planned this? I was just like, I believe I was playing the collaboration meditation on the 20th, and I'm like, hey, I could actually talk about some of this stuff with somebody. And then FangleSpangle, I saw his stuff, and I'm like, we could collaborate on this sort of thing. So here we are. That's basically the whole story to that side of things. And yeah, we just figured it'd be interesting to, talk about the meditations, because we're 2 YouTubers that do voiceovers for the meditations that we do. We do commentary for them, and just figured it'd be nice to get to know what each other thinks more about the games, because meditations is about contemplation, meditations is about interpretation, and you can't really challenge your own interpretation if you don't have somebody else to challenge it. So,
no, absolutely.
Yeah. But some of you may not know what meditations are. Many of you probably do, because if you've been following our channels, we've been doing them daily.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a grind, but here we are. Yeah, it's just trying to keep on top of them, because important thing, the meditations can only be seen on the day that you play them, which is something that's very interesting. Every game is only available on the day it was made for. That means that if you miss a day, the meditation will be available again next year, as the meditations game site says, which, yes, makes its own challenge. Most definitely. Yeah. Do you find that yourself? It's just somewhat challenging to try and keep on top of it.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, it's been useful for me to get started with recording videos, because I'm too inclined just to put something off. I don't have that luxury with this. I've got to do it on the day. Yeah. So for me, that's actually been really helpful. Yeah. And
for me, my partner and I do videos on a daily basis, but with the meditations, it's its own separate thing, because I don't really sleep, so I'm able to do them at midnight. But
fair enough, yeah.
But that does mean that I then have to work it in and around all the other stuff that we do, so it's its own thing. But yeah, what meditations are, aside from being a game every day that you cannot replay, essentially they're just little free games that you can play in a dedicated browser, despite there being many launchers in today's day and age, with Epic Games Launcher and Discord Launcher and Steam and all that jazz. But yeah, free games. No money to pay. They vary from about 5 minutes to 20 minutes. I believe the longest one I've played has been about 10 minutes.
Oh, longest it's taking...
Longest meditation?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, actually,
About 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a few games that I've replayed, and I've got, like, half an hour to an hour out of them, but... Yeah, the game itself doesn't last long, so...
No, so, free game... only takes about 10 minutes. It says approximately 5 in the Meditation Games Launcher website. Link to that in the description below if you do want to check it out yourself, because I ramble over stuff. And hopefully I'm not rambling over Fangle as well. So
No.
Get rambling.
Do your pitch.
Then there's also a full list of developers at the site. We're probably going to have forgotten quite a few, just because we played over 31 games at this point. And they all do blur somewhat into one, apart from the top 5, which we'll be getting onto as well in just a few minutes. All the games are tested for malicious content if you are concerned about that sort of thing. Because, free stuff, people are like, free! That's not good. But no, free. No, it's just whenever you see free stuff on the internet, there's always that element of...
Oh yeah, there's always that scare that there's a scam in there somewhere.
There's always that element, but it always they've been scanned by the actual meditations creator, Rami Ismail, and also whenever I boost up my AVG, he goes, wait a minute, and then it scans it, but it's always fine. So it's always fine. Launcher establishes what day it is by Greenwich Mean Time. So if you are elsewhere in the country or in the world, both Fangle and I are in Britain, so it's midnight. But if you are elsewhere in the world, then it can be a different timestamp for you, so you may want to check that out. And then you can support the creators via the hashtag meditation games. Hashtag also meditations game. Seems to be a hashtag.
Yes, that's one thing he regrets.
Yes. Yeah, because I did one, and then that one wasn't popular. Then I did the other, and then I got confused. Then I did both, but then I thought that would look disingenuous, because I like playing the games for what they are. And then I then stuck with one, and I can't remember which one it is. But meditation games or meditations games, if you want to get in contact with them. Also, in the launcher itself, it actually, if you click on the creator's name, it normally brings up their Twitter or a blog or something where you'll be able to find them. And then, unfortunately, you can't make a game for the meditations. They've all been locked down, and there's no Linux support. So that's just a general overview. Again, I probably missed something, so if you do want to check out the meditations games, again, link is in the description below. That's the end of that shill bit, though, because we're going to be getting into what it means to us, what the meditations mean to us. So, what does it mean to you, Fangle?
To me, as someone, I'm very interested and very passionate about games and game design in particular. I used to want to be a game designer. I suppose I still do. Yeah. And I love analysing games. I love talking about them. I love really getting into the nitty-gritty. So having developers make a bunch of small games with the intention of being analysed and being enjoyed and looked into, for me, it's awesome. And it's really opened my eyes to what you can do and what you can say with a game and with how little you can say it.
Yes.
So for me, as someone who just loves the medium and as someone who wants to create or has wanted to create in that medium, it's just twofold fascination for me. I absolutely adore it.
Yeah, it's a very similar thing for me. I'm very much an advocate for indie gaming as a platform and breeding ground for experimentation and and development of new ideas. Essentially, AAA releases, they're very driven by money. I mean, we live...
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's understandable. The amount of money that goes into them, you've got to make a return.
Of course, but
you can't
at the same time, that doesn't give life to experimentation, because often you see the same sort of first-person shooter thing, or battle royales are now a common thing. Whereas in indie gaming, because people are having to work with such a small budget, same with films. I like low-budget films, because they have to work with such a low budget. They're a lot more creative with what they do, and as a consequence, you get fascinating games where they can deliver a message because they're often built around a central message. Itch.io has hundreds, thousands of fascinating indie games which I very much enjoy as well. So, yeah, it's just something I absolutely adore, indie gaming as a genre and as a platform for creativity.
I agree with that.
And essentially the meditations are exactly that, except the game's slightly shorter, and I like working in short form. I do one long form video a week. That's on a Wednesday, and it takes so much editing. It's long form videos I struggle with, but I'm trying to push myself into it. But yeah, it's essentially that's what it means to us. As for the top 5 meditations, what we're going to be doing is counting down from 5. We'll each say what our 5th favourite one is, and then 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, that sort of jazz. In terms of how I've rated them according to how they are as a game, how they are in terms of tone, and the message. So those are the 3 elements that I took into consideration when actually doing placement for these games.
Mine aren't in any particular order apart from my number 1. That is a clear runaway winner for me, but the rest of them, all my games, all my favourite ones that I've picked, are literally just down to, did I enjoy them? What impact did it have on me? How much did it resonate with me? So it's the ones that have stood out the most for me.
Yes, but because there are so many games that as aforementioned, they can blur, but these are the games that have stood out to us in the past, the 31 in January, because all of these are the January meditations. Essentially that'll be covered. An honorary mention on my side before we do get started. First Smile. Now, I very much enjoyed it, which was the 14th of the 1st, 2019, 14th of January. It's a very good concept, a very enjoyable concept that was surprising, but I didn't see it as a game, really.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the name of the guy who did it? I can't remember. But the thing that was one of the first meditations that I struggled to comment on initially because there was so little to it. I was like, what just happened? But I loved how the game sets 2 standards for me. One, it shows how little you need to set an emotion.
Yes.
That is literally a screen changes colour. And it's the whole idea of, because it was about his daughter, if I remember correctly, or his child, either way. And how he felt effectively he was looking after a little potato. But the first time the child smiled at him, it completely lit up his world and it changed his perspective. So the idea that little colour change can represent that was really good. But the second point, but the second thing that I think it made me realise is just how important context is because you gave that game to someone and just don't give any explanation, it's utterly rubbish. There's nothing to it. Context can completely redefine what something means, so and can completely change the impact of something. So I really, really appreciated that.
No, I completely agree. I'll be honest, I couldn't have explained it better than you did in that video, because I struggled. I very much struggled with that as well. And that element of context sort of did go over my head, but in terms of symbolism, I definitely picked up on that. But the number 5 spot for me was a game that I don't know if it was called this, but I've given a name to each one of the games. So I'll also be mentioning the date stamp. A game that I called Energy, which was on the 2nd of January 2019.
Yes.
This was essentially a game where you had to hold down the mouse button until a central circle filled up, but you couldn't do so until it was red, because that was representative of having overexerted yourself. Now, I thought that the game was very interesting. It was very similar to Tempra's. It was a very different take on Tempra's at the same time. The tone was very nice indeed, because it didn't have any music, but I could feel as if something was actually happening. And then the message of the game was wonderful, just in terms of being able to pick it up and see what the creator was intending with that game, essentially. So that's why Energy is in my top 5 spot.
No, I do remember that one. That was one of my favourites. There's just so many more have sort of come along since then. But that set the tone for meditations for me, that game. Because the first one, Temperance, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was very... it wasn't very emotive, it was very clinical. It was very mechanical orientated. And this one was the first one of 2, granted.
Yeah.
But, that set the idea that these mechanics can express an emotion or express a feeling. And then quite a lot of games have mirrored that since, so that set the precedent for me.
Yeah, it most definitely set the bar, yes. So, what was your number 5 spot in the top 5 of the meditation?
Number 5. These happen to be from the most recent to the oldest one, so I'll just be doing them in that order. It was Game 21 by Andy Runyon, or Runyon. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It was the one where it didn't have a lot of emotional impact. I didn't get the what he was trying to convey emotionally with it. But it was just a really good game. It was great fun to play. It was that little snake style game. Yes,
I think I ended up calling it fruit salad, because they looked like different fruits. Like,
that's pretty good.
Apples and oranges and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked the taking something as simple as snake and adding some stuff to it, mixing it up a little bit.
Turning it into a puzzle.
To align the... Yeah, I really appreciated that. It was good fun. And a lot of the stuff that he did afterwards... if I remember correctly, he's the guy who did Snake Tetris.
Okay, I can see that.
It's amazing. It's such a good idea, and I just saw it. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. That is a hell of a shout. I hope that is him, or I've just miscredited him. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, I was very impressed with that game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that's one that, again, I very much enjoy, but because there being so many games, I had to somehow switch some out of the top 5. So. But number 4 for me was a game which I called Sweet Spot, because you were looking for a sweet spot on a doggo, and I ended up calling it a dog spot, and that was on 29th of January 2019. That was essentially, you were just looking, I believe it was like a pixel perfect space you had to boop, to click, and then the dog would...
I actually told me about it. It's a 4x4... no, it's a 4 pixel area.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so... I was clicking around... forever trying to find that. I was booping them, I was stroking their head, I was trying everything, and then I believe it was like on the back of the leg, because it's actually not procedurally generated, but randomly generated, so that it's different every single time you play it. And essentially the dog would start scratching and then go off like a motorbike, which just I found hilarious. It's mainly the tone of that game which has got it into the top 4 spot, because it's a very good concept. You're essentially just giving a dog pets until it gets excited and runs away, and then the message of the game was about being dauntless and adamant within a game, which I felt was very much represented in the game itself as well.
That's a good shout. I missed that one, yeah.
So yeah, that's essentially why Sweet Spot, which was the 29th of the 1st, 2019, was in my top 4.
No, that's awesome pick, actually. I really love that game. I came back from a really hard day. I was absolutely drained and sat down to play meditation, and it was just fuss a dog. I was in absolute heaven. I fell in love completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good shout. My number 4 was the sort of the musical echo game, Day 18, by Andrew Gleason, where you entered some keys and they played a note, and then after a set period of time, the notes would echo back to you. I love that one. I don't think it was particularly emotive, but it was very calming, very soothing. I felt very in the zone with it, and I really enjoyed it. But I think it was the only one so far that's really had that strong sense of replayability.
Yeah.
So you can create your own music and all that kind of stuff. I wish I had more time to noodle with it, but no, I absolutely loved that one. I thought it was really good.
I think I got very Close Encounters of the Third Kind vibe from it, like the keyboard to open the mothership or something. I think that was Close Encounters.
I'm not sure, I'm afraid. I don't know.
Yeah, a game I very much enjoyed. I think I called that one Endless Void because it was talking about music within an endless void or something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
It's just giving these things names have helped me remember what they are.
No, that's a good idea, actually.
Because, I don't know, it's just something. It's like a weird memory trick for me. Number 3 was on the 20th of January 2019, and a game that I called Collaboration. It was essentially a rhythm-based game where you had to click on certain timings to essentially get the melody to compile together, to come together as a symphony. Now, this one I very much liked as a game because I very much like rhythm games. The tone of it in Collaboration was that all of these different musical elements are coming together to create a symphony. And then the message, again, that was just the message of collaboration, and was the game that actually inspired to, make this meditation contemplation thing.
Really? That's really cool.
So, just because collaboration, I thought it was fitting. And I'm like, wait a minute, I could talk to somebody about this. could talk to somebody about these meditations. So, yeah, essentially, the number 3 spot was responsible for this, and also just being an awesome game in its own right. It was inspired in some part by Night in the Woods, a game that I very much enjoy, which is by the Finji development team. That is a game wherein there is an element where you can find different characters, and together they make a symphony. So
I've never played Night in the Woods. I wasn't aware of that. I think I've probably got it somewhere. I'll have to play that.
Yeah, it's very good. It's essentially about an anthropomorphic town of animals where you play as May the cat, and you essentially go around during autumn and winter. Nice,
I'm gonna check that out. No, I took a similar but slightly different message from that. I took it as not so much collaboration, but what's the word I'm looking for here? Embracing new opportunities, taking risks, and just getting yourself out there, basically.
Yes.
The more things that the more experiences that you soak up in life, the more people you meet, the more colour, music, spice, effectively, you add to your life. And it creates this big, beautiful picture and this beautiful song, and that's how I took it, at least, anyway.
And everything just comes together. I can completely see that. Awesome.
Absolutely. What one were we on now? Number 3 is I can't remember what you called this. I think it's Bird Box or something. Game 16.
Yes.
Made by I think ZK. I don't know how he pronounces it. It's either ZK or Zook. I don't know.
Yeah.
He never clarified.
I didn't know either.
This game was up there for me purely because of how well he put together the mechanics of the game with the emotion he was trying to convey.
Yes.
I think even without the full context of the game, if you flapped about and you experience the things that the game teaches you, you can probably piece together what it's actually about. And I think that's actually a very difficult and very impressive thing to do, especially with such a minimalist game. So, that's got a very high spot for me. I really enjoyed that one. Took a lot from it, and it seems to have resonated really well with a lot of people. So, very good job.
Yeah, there was a very good Twitter, sort of like, I can't think of the word right now, but a Twitter response to that game, if I'm remembering correctly. But number 2 for me was Free as a Bird, which was essentially what I called that one. Yeah. So bumped up one extra for me. That was the 16th of January 2019. Essentially, on my side of things, it was talking about anxiety and feeling trapped, and if you do anything, you just feel even more trapped, as if in a concrete box. And yeah, again, it just completely, it did resonate with me how they were getting that message across. And if you were able to escape, it then was representative of how everybody else is within their own box. Everybody else has their own anxieties, which it helped me understand at that time, because I've been going through some own struggles myself in terms of anxiety and depression. So there's been quite a few games which have been very important to me. Free as a Bird was one that actually made me realise, wait a minute, everybody's struggling with some sort of anxiety or trouble.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, that is why Free as a Bird is number 2. Unfortunately, not number 1, but number 2.
No, that's fair. But also, something else I want to add on top of that. Yeah. I liked how you have to get out the top of the box.
Yes.
That's the only way of getting out, but every time you try and get to it, you paralyse in fear. And I really liked that little touch. Like, you have to push through it. It's not an easy thing to do. It will kick back, but you have to power through it. Yeah. I thought that was incredibly poetic and very well done with the mechanics in the game.
And then how the bird got progressively slightly more yellow, which through well, firstly, it's a canary, which they're adorable little chirpy birds, and secondly, with colour symbolism just being slightly happier and happier, trying to get out the box and making progress. So I very much did enjoy that little element as well. It's a game full of little touches, and all the little touches do come together to make an excellent meditation.
Yeah, nothing was put in there without consideration, which is damn impressive. That's very good work.
Cool.
So my game number 2 now, isn't it? I think?
Yes.
Yes, this one was Day 4 by Eagle something Russian. I cannot remember his last name, but I talked to him quite a bit on Twitter, which is quite nice. And this game, I actually missed the meaning of this game, which I feel a bit stupid about, because there actually was one, and a lot of other people seem to have picked up on it. But it's up there on the list for me just because it's so damn good. It's such a good game. I'd love to have seen more of it, and learning that the most impressive thing about a lot of these meditations is you only have 6 hours to make it. I wasn't aware of this until recently.
Yes.
So this guy making a Pico 8 game from scratch, making a very competent puzzle engine, and making some damn good levels. I was like, that's actually just impressive work. I'd love to have seen more of this game. But I think this game was about, cooperation, if I remember correctly. I can't quite remember.
It was.
But as the game progresses, you've got you control multiple things that slide across the screen, and they don't stop until they hit something, either a wall or each other. And towards the end of the game, you've got to sort of bounce off your own pieces to complete the puzzle. Yeah. And I think that, in hindsight, delivered it really well, but I totally missed it in the day, which was quite embarrassing.
That was one I missed as well. I'm not particularly good at the Pokemon sliding puzzles, so with that, I sort of just did have to brute force some of the puzzles. Unfortunately, when it comes to very particular puzzles, I just have to brute force through certain things.
Yeah, I can't stand that.
It was challenging. It was challenging. It was good. Yeah, number 1 for me in January for the meditation launcher was on the 10th of January 2019, and it was a game that I called Past Friends. Now, this was a game whose blurb was essentially talking about the creator's friend, whom sadly did pass away after, just being close to them. They would spend many evenings snuggled up to them, and then the night before their friend did pass away, they sought them out and snuggled up to them, which I thought was very touching. When I then booted up the game, it was essentially a gravestone with a little spirit dog, and you were throwing a ball around. Now, when you would throw the ball, the little spirit dog would get progressively lighter until they would just disappear entirely. The music would stop, and you were just left there with nothing. Now, this is my number 1 as the game, although in terms of gameplay there's not much going on, it's just you're throwing a ball for a dog. It's playing fetch, and if that doesn't warm your heart, I don't know what does. Secondly, tone, it was beautiful. Again, it was a real life story from these creators, because as often they do, the creators are sharing elements of their own lives or stories, and again, it was incredibly touching that they would share this story, this part of themselves to so many people on the internet, because the internet is not a friendly place in general.
No, it's really
not at all. So to share that something that sensitive was incredibly brave, and then the message just with the dog getting lighter and lighter did break my heart slightly, but it was very bittersweet, because essentially you knew that the creator did have a lot of good times with their friend, but eventually that did have to come to pass, which is why I did call it Past Friends. So that's why it was number 1. Just utterly beautiful game. Absolutely love the pixel graphics of it. Just everything about the game I adored.
Yeah, I remember that game really well. It's one of my favourites, but it didn't quite make the sort of top 5 cut for me. But it's that idea of just wanting to play, literally just play fetch with them one more time, just see that friend one more time, have that fun. But no matter what, everything inevitably comes to an end. Yeah. And it was incredibly heart-wrenching. I swear I didn't cry. So, no, I really enjoyed that one. That was really sweet. So, my number 1 was Day 3 by Lisa Brown. It was about depression.
Yes.
Depression. This game hit the nail on the head for so many levels for me. Depression is something that I have had far too much bloody history with. I've been diagnosed with it like 20 years now. I've been going through this absolute nonsense. So therapy, medication, all kinds. So it's a beast I'm very familiar with. One of the best things that I learned getting through depression, it sounds a bit stupid, but it was the realizing that you're not suffering alone. A lot of other people are going through it too, and people can empathize and people can relate. Something I learned a long time ago, but it's always a good thing to still see. And someone making a game dedicated to something that's so personal to me felt fantastic. You know, it was a very personal thing. It was very impactful. And I loved how the mechanics delivered on that feeling. Because the blurb was talking about how depression can make you feel incredibly sapped of energy. You know what you need to get better. In Lisa Brown's case, it was going into the next room where her friends were and hanging out with them. So it was this room of light, this little paradise just outside her room. And all she had to do was get from her bed to that doorway. And when depression really has you in the thick of it, even that can seem like a completely insurmountable task.
No, it's something that I've been struggling with for years myself, and actually somewhat diagnosed in the past couple of months. So it's something I definitely understand, like sleeping for, 16, 18 hours a day, being unable to move. It's not a nice experience. So that was something I could completely understand, because it was sort of like a weighted body that you're trying to move, wasn't it, within the game, and that really did resonate with me.
And it's so apt. And again, without the context, that would just be frustrating to play. You're trying to move this ragdoll along, it's like, come on, why aren't you moving? But with the context, you understand why they're not moving, and it seems so trivial. It's like, why aren't you moving? And it's just because the body isn't willing. No matter what you try to do, no matter how much you force it to, it's so difficult to get that motion going. The thing that really turned this up to 11 for me, though, was, although it conveyed that feeling of depression really well, there was that pit before the door. And that pit was a kind of a failure state. I think it's the only meditation game that had a failure state, if I recall correctly.
But Free as a Bird did as well.
That's right. If you didn't break out the box in time. Yeah, which is very. I didn't actually mention in my video, which was very stupid because I did think of it and forgot to mention it. That time pressure in Free as a Bird was very important to selling the feeling of anxiety.
Definitely.
Because you can miss an opportunity because anxiety gets in the way. So I thought that was very poetic. But yeah, back to the Game 3 depression. Falling down that pit was kind of failing to get to that door, failing to get across that gulf, metaphorically. I don't think she literally has a pit in her bedroom, so I hope not. But after the first few attempts, it didn't become about dragging myself through depression. It became about dragging someone else through depression and getting someone over that pit and getting someone where they needed to. And that felt absolutely amazing when I got over that pit and into the room. Like, I jumped in joy, effectively.
I didn't realise that there was a win state, if I'll be honest. I thought I thought that was the game, because the pit was so wide and the body was so unresponsive. I figured you can't get them across this.
Yeah, I didn't think that at first. I sort of fell into the pit, and I was like, that can't be the end of the game. That's a horrible end to the game. So I sort of went back to it and was like, there's got to be something I'm missing, and I found it. So, but yeah, that elation of getting someone over that pit and getting someone to help was, oh man, that's definitely the best thing I've had of all these games so far, which is why it is number one for me.
Yeah. No, it's a very, very good pick. It's just because there's so many, it unfortunately did just fall out as well. It's just
absolutely.
The meditations for January have been absolutely fascinating, and for me, I'm just glad I actually picked up that it was a thing, because I saw it on 1st of January and thought, that looks interesting. But if I hadn't looked on Twitter at that point, I probably wouldn't have been doing any of this. So
same to be fair. I got very lucky with mine. How did you come across it? I assume an indie developer shared it or something.
Yeah, I think it was retweeted. I think Rami Ismail's was retweeted by like Finji or Devolver Digital or someone.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
I think it was just shared by an indie developer or indie powerhouse, and then just rolled with it from there. To be honest.
Yeah, similar to be fair. There's a woman called Jennifer Skurel. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's German and complicated. Yeah. But I follow her because she's got some really good game design talk and stuff like that. So I find it really interesting. And she shared it, and I was like, every day it resets. I've been wanting to do videos for ages. This is going to force me to do it.
Yeah.
Let's get on the wagon. Let's start doing this thing. So.
No. Rami Ismail, if you are listening, 40-ish minutes in, I don't know how long this is actually, thank you for the Meditations launcher and everything that it is. We're very much looking forward to February. Because, if the bar's being raised this high with past trends and depression, then I don't know what February possibly can do, to be honest. And then
I'm looking forward to it.
Just going on throughout the year. But, have you got any last words about meditations or any of that jazz?
I'll try to think what I have not said, other than it's an awesome idea, and I really love how such simple games can be so impactful. I think that's my biggest takeaway from it, which I did say earlier, but bears repeating, I suppose.
No, it does bear repeating.
Yeah, as someone who's interested in absolutely adores game design, and I do see it as art and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Being able to show so much with so little, to me, feels like something that only a game can do. So it's something that I've been enjoying wholeheartedly.
Oh no, I most definitely agree. Unfortunately, it does come to that shield bit of the video. If you did enjoy today's meditation contemplation, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and go and check out FangleSpangle's YouTube channel also. If not, that's perfectly fine as well. Those sorts of things can, blur into one, because it's been very difficult to separate out the meditations, having played one every single day. It's very difficult indeed. It's just very difficult. But yes, thank you so much for watching our videos on Nuke and Loke and for watching FangleSpangle's videos. I hope you have a wonderful evening and good night.